everybody. Hello. Good morning, everybody. How you feeling? You had a good weekend? Yeah. So I would like to thank everyone for joining us as we celebrate the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the land upon we are on. Take a moment to read honoring the land. As we celebrate the International Day of Persons with Disabilities, I would like to ask Jenny Grimard, faculty in School of Media Studies and Information Technology, an AODA committee member, to share an opening remarks. Jenny?
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for joining us in celebration this morning. Humber College joins the international community in celebrating the lives and many contributions of persons with disability on this day, the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. The United Nations has identified this year's theme as empowering persons with disabilities and ensuring inclusiveness and equality. The observance of the day aims to promote an understanding of disability issues and mobilize the support for dignity, rights, and well-being of persons with disabilities. It also seeks to increase awareness of gains to be derived from the integration of persons with disabilities in every aspect of political, social, economic, and cultural life. At Humber College, we continue to work towards increasing accessibility and inclusion in all that we do. Humber's AODA committee continues to work with Humber's academic schools and departments to engage in practices that increase access and eliminate barriers across the college. In the School of Media Studies and Information Technology, we continue to promote the importance of accessibility best practices in our classrooms and curriculum to the next generation of media makers. Our training initiatives with faculty, staff, and students through our Making Accessible Media online course and workshops continue to build awareness around accessibility and information sharing. As we take this day to celebrate the many contributions of persons with disabilities, we ask that you take the time to reflect on your own practices in your offices or in your classrooms, and ask yourselves, what more can I do to bring accessibility into my daily activities? Let us all continue to embed the principles of equality, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility in all that we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Many departments and schools across Humber College continuously engage in initiatives and projects to increase accessibility of the programs and services, such areas Humber College residents. I am now inviting Kayla Chambers and Dee Merkley from residents to come and share some more information on the exciting accessibility initiatives that have been taking place here at Humber. Kayla? Dee, thank you.
Hey, good morning, everyone, and thank you for having us here. So my name's Kayla. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a residence life coordinator at the Humber Lakeshore campus.
And I'm Dee. I'm the front desk coordinator. I use they, them pronouns. I'm out also at Lakeshore.
Oh. Slideshow.
Just waiting for our slideshow.
Yeah. A little bit here.
Thank you.
I think it's okay. Thank you, though. Oh, lovely.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, again, so thank you for having us here. So in the next short while, we're just going to give you a bit of an overview of the journey we've taken in residence to improve the accessibility of our spaces. And so this began with the Residence Accessibility Committee in 2015. So in partnership with the Human Rights and Equity Office and the Department of Facilities, we started to do some work towards deconstructing barriers in our building. Since then, we've assessed our physical and non-physical barriers and implemented some initiatives to improve accessibility. Okay, so a bit about residence overall. So our role in residence is not only just to provide a home for students, but also to support their personal and professional development and develop transferable skills. So we do this through providing some experiential learning opportunities and having regular touch points and mentorship available to them as well. So at the residence, we have three buildings here at the North Campus and then one at the Lakeshore Campus. Our building at the North Campus has around 1,000 students, and at the Lakeshore Campus, we have around 425. And then on both campuses, we have barrier-free suites. So that would be one building at North Campus and one building at the Lakeshore Campus has the suite-style residence. And then we also have barrier-free, like single units in a traditional residence style.
So I just wanted to take you through a little bit of why the Residence Accessibility Committee was formed. The previous summer to this, we needed to install a lift for a resident. And so we made the suite accessible, including the lounge and areas that the student would access. But it started to get us thinking about, well, what else could what other barriers exist that we haven't thought about yet? We also received some feedback from students just about engaging in our residence space. So they had feedback around the cafeteria and accessing menus and that kind of thing. And we really wanted to figure out what needs to change and how can we go about addressing these issues. So we knew we needed planned changes to the building, and we also were aware that our buildings, two of them are 30 years old, a few of them are about 12 years old, so we really needed to think about that space. So the timeline of the Residence Admissions Committee in 2015, that's kind of when we got together, we started researching. We reached out to other housing professionals in our communities to see if any of this work had been done previously, and it hadn't. So we set about to create this document. We also, in 2016, reached out to our students and sought feedback from those folks. And we developed our residence accessibility checklist, which is designed to assess barriers in post-secondary residences, something that didn't exist prior to prior to this document. So we audited all of our buildings, every inch, and then we developed a subcommittee to assign priorities to those, to what the audit had found. So in 2017, we began implementing some of those priorities. We also kind of switched focus to a non-built environment. So we started looking at our software accessibility as well as our student-facing documentation and communications. And in 2018, significant renovations have been done to both campuses, including our common kitchen, and a number of lounges and access points. As well, we've created documentation for our department around accessible documentation and communication.
All right, so where we're going from here. So up to date, these changes have been implemented, which include significant renovations to both campuses, and in particular, most recent renovation was our residence kitchen. Also going forward, we're ensuring that accessibility requirements are incorporated in all of our requests for proposals for major appliances and services whenever we're implementing like new features in the building. Recently, we've also compiled an accessibility best practices document, and it's something that we're continuing to review to ensure in our department we have best practices for verbal communication, so the way our front desk staff, our resident assistants, how they engage with students, and also our written communication, so posters and all kinds of student-facing documents. So we went through a review of things that admissions would put out to students, residence life would put out to students, ensuring they're all AODA compliant and also make sense for students when they're able to process it. And going forward, we're also thinking more about training that we can implement for our staff, and of course are open to any suggestions and partnerships with other departments on those projects going forward. Okay, so again, thank you for having us. It's a very brief overview, so if you have any questions, feel free to find D&I. We have a table over by Human Rights there. And again, it's an ongoing process, right? So we're open to hearing ideas, collaborations on how you think we can best support our students and improve the accessibility of our buildings. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, we do have a long process, but guess what? We're doing something. That's something we should all be proud of. Yeah. Okay. So many of you know that Humber College has an Accessibility for Ontarians with Disability Act Committee. This year, the committee had created an amazing educational campaign to raise the college awareness on accessible practices so that we can incorporate in our everyday practices. This project was completed in collaboration with the Ignite and the Center for Human Rights, Equity, and Diversity. I would like to introduce Monica Costa to introduce the first accessibility video.
Hi, my name is Monica, and I'm the president of Ignite, which is our student union here on campus. As Zara mentioned, recently the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act Committee, AODA, and Ignite came together to make a few short videos to highlight several accessibility barriers that exist in and around our institution. These videos were created These videos were made to create more awareness around the diverse accessibility needs that our students experience here at Humber College, as well as the University of Guelph Humber. It is our goal that these videos help you better understand the importance of us taking action to improve accessibility on campus. Now, please join me in watching the first video.
So was the video awesome or what? Yeah, I love it. Stay tuned for the second video. You're going to love it even more. Okay, so I would like to welcome everyone to introduce the key speaker and colleagues Sonia Tucker. Sonia has been an educator for 10 years with an experience in equity and diversity issues, accessibility and universal design for learning, human resources, and learning and teaching. She has a license in psychology from Argentina and is a Canadian human resource professional who has been worked with in the U.S. and Canada in higher education. Her current role as an accessibility consultant, she has provided services for students with disabilities on an ongoing basis, providing training, advocacy about accessibility topics. Sonia also facilitates the social group for students with autism spectrum, and it's the co-chair of the college's Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee. Welcome, Sonia. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that introduction. It is an honor today to be speaking to all of you on this special day, the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. As Zara said, I do have an extensive background in accessibility services as well as in higher education. I've been working in this field since 2001. However, I believe that every person's unique challenges are different from each other, and every case is different, and every person is different and brings their unique strengths as well as difficulties. So today, I truly feel very honored and as well as humbled to be here, as I cannot necessarily speak for all the challenges that every person with their individual and unique characteristics present. So thank you very much for having me here today. When I was creating this presentation, I was actually very nervous, to be honest, and I talked to one of my friends back home in Argentina, South America, who told me, Sonia, I have a certificate of disability due to my bipolar disorder, which I had no idea about, and I trust that you will be able to speak on my behalf. That truly helped me and empowered me even more to be able to be here in front of all of you and speak in today's important day, International Day of Persons with Disabilities. So let's take a quick look at what we are looking in terms of numbers throughout the world. World Health Organization indicates that the world population is 7 billion, and 1 billion are living with some form of disability. So that's around 15% of the global population. In Ontario, we reflect similar numbers, with 15.5% of Ontarians also living with some type of disability. Here at Humber, every year there's an increase in numbers of students registered with our accessible learning services. As an accessibility consultant, I work with students in providing accommodations and working and liaisoning with key people on campus to identify systemic barriers and as well as work in redesigning and implementing universal approaches to education. As you can see, the increase in numbers has been substantial, and this is not only for students who are registered with our office, but also we must think about employees and staff that work here at Humber and Guelph Humber. If we look at the students registers based on type of disability, the main categories are both learning disability as well as mental health, both invisible disabilities, as you can all see. So what I want you to do is maybe to talk between each other, 2 or 3 people, or even if you want to just reflect on your own, take a time to reflect on the following question. What does empowering persons with different abilities mean to you? Or even if you're a person who is living with a different ability, what does empowering, or how does empowering mean? Is it presented for yourself? Like, what can you do to empower people? What can others do for you in terms of empowering you? For people, yeah. Okay, everyone. So what are some of the thoughts in terms of what does empowering persons with different abilities means to you?
We just talked a little bit about like leveling the playing field for everybody, so equal opportunities.
I think it also kind of comes down to making sure that it's equity, not just equality.
I think you really have to look at the attitudes around it. I think that's one of the hugest barriers to providing access and options for individuals. So just checking those perspectives and biases.
According to me, like to fill with them positiveness, because everyone has their own shine and talent. We cannot judge anyone on the basis of anything. So everyone has their own ability to do anything in their life. So yeah, affirmative.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It's a good way of starting a conversation in terms of what can we do. So I did ask the Accessible Learning Services team to give me a similar answer to the questions. Thinking about a student with disability that you have personally worked with, how did you empower this student to ensure inclusiveness, equality? And some of the topics were providing options. So how many options, more than one, not just one type of providing knowledge, not feeling alone, building a sense of community, helping, self-advocacy that looks like empowering students to be able to self-advocate, as well as have the space and the facilities and the options not to necessarily have to self-advocate because we are already inclusive, and constantly challenging the status quo. So let's take a look at this image. As you all can see, this is based on a historical model, medical model of thinking disability, where everybody is provided with the same type of remedy, which is the same box. However, not necessarily taking into consideration what each person brings to the table. We are here at Humber providing accommodations and systemically becoming equality, where we are taking in more in consideration every person's unique difficulties and strengths. So as you can see, people are getting, in this case, the box is the accommodation, according to the unique characteristics. We at Humber have various initiatives where we are providing equality in services by having some of this, our integration of SWAC, where Student Wellness and Accessibility Center, where health services, counseling and accessible learning services all are in the same area. Accessibility consultants are partner with schools in terms of providing a better understanding of the way each school operates in terms of academics, and understanding what systemic barriers could be presented, and in that way creating inclusive and universal design of approaches, such as a successful pilot project is universal design in health services. Some of my colleagues are working. Easy Start Transition Program to prepare students that are incoming from high school, transition smoothly from high school to college in an understanding of how to navigate the college system and what strengths they bring to the table in their academics to have a better experience. This happens every year, just before orientation week. Transition to work, just as transitioning from high school to college is important, we have started doing some events that's transition to work, so it helps students prepare themselves better for the workforce. And there are several social groups, and as it has been mentioned before, one of the social groups is I run it, and it's for students living in the autism spectrum disorder. Having said that, there are several successful stories here at Humber for students who have been registered in our office. And one of the students has approached our office, and they wanted to basically share with all of you their success. So Ian Walker is an alumni from 2005. He was a mature student when he actually graduated, entered Humber and graduated in the fundraising management program. And he's now a renowned author and an international author who has written Steering My Soul to Sing, Overcoming ADHD Through Song. So that was his coping mechanism. Ian, when I talked to Ian, he indicated that he had tried to study back in the early 70s, and the atmosphere was not necessarily yet prepared for him. However, when he came to Humber with the help of one of his consultants and with all the services provided in this college, he was able to graduate successfully. And his words to me were, "From gaining help and support from the Humber program, I now have a voice, a strong voice to speak that one can be successful with ADHD. It is not an easy journey to complete a degree or certificate program with this disorder, but with help and support, you too can achieve all of your academic and life goals and dreams." So in taking Ian's words, what I get most out of it is having a voice. So each one of us has a voice in building this inclusive community here at Humber. And last but definitely not least, something to strive for in terms of inclusiveness and empowering everybody to be part of this community is to think approaches to learning and services in a universally designed way. So as you can see, if you can look at it as a time progression in terms of a historical timeline, where initially there was a medical way of thinking about things with a prescribed remedy, accommodations, and our ideal would be to think systemically of the barriers, both physical, attitudinal, in terms of providing successful opportunities for everyone in terms of how and what is being provided and received. So This is just an image where it says for a first selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. Now, as we know, we are going back in history if we actually sit down and start doing this. So what I want you to do is, again, have time for reflection, maybe talk to each other. So just as a case, student X struggles due to mental health related limitations. They are in their first 2 weeks of class. They have all their courses. Their intention is to attend all the courses. And unfortunately, they're not feeling well and start being absent and are not able to necessarily attend classes. And so this cycle makes them feel even more overwhelmed, and they're not able to attend. And then they reach out and say, I need extensions of an assignment. I am not able to cope. What can we do? What can I do to be able to continue being a student? So in groups, again, on 2 or 3, if you can think of some of the barriers that they may be facing, what can be done to create a more inclusive environment for them? How can we be more understanding of their unique needs and help them rely on their strength to be a successful person in the community? How can you seek supports for yourself or to help someone else? And I just want to point, I did choose a case for a student, but let's think about if you're an employee as well, who may be struggling with the same type of related functional limitation, where maybe getting up every morning in the class to come to work is difficult for you. How can us as a community understand some of the barriers? How can we create an inclusive environment? How can we understand their unique needs? And what supports can be provided to help? So if you can talk to each other for a bit.
Congratulations. Good to see you. Good to see you. I can't stay. I have a meeting. Okay, but thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Yeah, we'll talk. We'll talk Thursday.
Okay. So coming back to the presentation. So is there anyone or a group of people who want to share some of the talks that they were having with the other person?
So we were talking about how a type of a barrier that could exist for students in the classroom who are dealing with mental health related limitations is what was it called again? Sorry. Attitudinal barriers. So students who may feel like they need a day off might be afraid to take that day off because they're afraid of what their professors or classmates might think, and then maybe like they think that they're lazy or not committed to the program when they are, and they're just dealing with something bigger. So that was what we talked about.
Thank you. Anyone else who wants to share?
Just from an instructor perspective, because I deal with this all the time, I think it's being flexible and offering your material both in class as well as supports online, and then working one-on-one with the student, offering them, I teach the same class 4 times in the week, so if they can't make it to one, come to another one, you're still going to get the material.
Thank you. Okay. And there was one question left that was, what can we proactively do, which is work with them one-on-one. So some final words. Creating a diverse and healthy community is equal to achievement and engagement of students and staff. As we all know, we have adopted the Okanagan Charter, which initially is a commitment of Humber in terms of embracing inclusiveness and well-being for everyone and creating a campus culture accordingly. So what's important is not to also think about every student and people with disabilities and every diverse ability as a talent pool which can bring to the table a way of thinking outside the box, a fresh perspective for education initiatives. We should be committed to eliminate barriers when identified, as well as this will help create a culture of openness, trust, and opportunity. So, the last thing I want to say is I would like for each one of you to turn to the person beside you, or if you're seeing this live streamed online, to maybe write it down for somebody. And just like as my friend at the beginning of the story, who told me that they trusted I was able to basically speak on their behalf and be empowered, I would like you to tell to the person beside that they're unique and that essentially their diversity is appreciated in forming the community here that we have at Humber. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Sonia. I agree, it's really important for us to be mindful. I hope people would be take the thing that you've been sharing and make it into an everyday habit to make students and everybody at Humber to be aware of accessibility, because we all have powers. We all hold our powers in this college. Use it wisely, be more inclusive, and we're the best. Right? All right? Okay. Okay, so I would now like to call my manager, Jody Glenn, the manager of the Center for Human Rights, Equity, and Diversity, who will be introducing a second accessibility video. And welcome, Jody.
Hello, everyone. I am heartened and warmed inside to see so many of us here gathered today in celebration of the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. So the second accessibility video clip is a call of a reminder to each and every one of us to pay closer attention to the spaces we occupy and to pay attention to signage. Please, let's take a look at the video clip.
So how was the video? Awesome. So finally, I would like to invite Michael Chris Thompson to do his closing remarks. He is the Human Resources Recruitment Coordinator at, thank you, Michael, come on.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Center for Human Rights, Equity, and Diversity, and Humber's AODA Committee, we would like to thank you for joining us in celebrating the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. A special thank you to Chris Whitaker, President of Humber College, and Lori Didich, Vice President of Human Resources, and the senior management team for their continued support and championing of principles of accessibility and inclusion across the college. I would like to take this moment and ask all members of the Humber's AODA committee to identify themselves. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you for continuously giving of your time, resources, and energy in supporting Humber's accessibility initiatives. To our keynote speaker, Sonia Thakur, thank you once again for the work that you do in accessible learning services and for sharing your knowledge and experiences with us today. Thank you. To Jonathan Thiang, where are you, Jonathan? He's over there taking photographs. And the marketing and communications team for supporting the development of the accessibility videos, and to IT services in partnership with Queen's Key Media for providing the live streaming and live captioning services. Thank you. To the many community stakeholders here at Humber who work towards increasing accessibility across the college through your programs and services, particularly to the team in Accessible Learning Services, thank you for the work that you do in supporting our students at Humber. Finally, I would like to thank all persons who identify as having a disability, whether visible or invisible, for your many contributions towards the advancement of our Humber community and societies at large. We look forward to seeing you all at the National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence Against Women event being held this Friday, December 6th from 11:45 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the Ignite Student Center. Thank you all and enjoy your day.
I'd like to thank everyone for joining us here today on behalf of the Center for Human Rights. Please, thank you to Zara for being the amazing MC. Fantastic. Please note there's more hot chocolates and coffee tea. We'll be around at the information tables being hosted by Community Outreach Workforce Development, Humber's residents, as well as the center. I would love to engage in some dialogue around the accessibility videos. And thank you to the Humber AODA committee for supporting that initiative. The hope is that these videos will be circulating on the HTV screens. There wasn't an opportunity, though, to sort of take some time here to really reflect on the messages. And you would see that the last question was asking, what will you do? To show the comparison between what at times is done versus what we can be doing just to increase our daily inclusive practices. So thank you once again. We're around. Thank you for all those who came out in attendance. I'm so heartened by this, and enjoy the rest of your day.